will. What you're seeking is a blessing from God.
You must expect a miracle.
You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. Randy Robinson here. You know, the Bible talks a lot about this idea of perseverance. It says, having done all, stand, you know. And so this could be difficult at times. I get it. We all go through things that are sometimes hard to kind of maintain our course and our attitude and motivation. And today's interview, I think, will inspire you because I don't know how this is such a story of perseverance and endurance that it is really, really remarkable. My guests today are Colleen and Lauren Murphy. They tell their story in a book that just dropped last month. It's available now. It's called Murphy's Don't Quit. I love the title. It's kind of their mantra, and you're going to hear why. Chat is open, by the way. If you haven't subscribed or followed, recommend you do that now. If you have any questions or want to be a part of the conversation, feel free to do it. If you're watching us live, if you're watching us in the replay, we welcome you as well. But for those live, you get a little extra bonus because you can kind of be a part of the conversation. But Colleen and Lauren, it's great to have you on Life Today Live.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. I mean, there's such a great story. I know we can't get all the details in. That's what the book's for. But just take us back to the day that everything changed. It really put you on this incredibly difficult but yet amazing journey.
Sure. So Lauren lived in New York. She lived in Manhattan, and I live in St. Louis, and she was on a business trip in Los Angeles. So April 19th, 2013, I got that phone call that every parent fears. And I received a call from a Los Angeles detective. And the first thing he said to me was, "How were you related to Lauren Murphy?" Now, I don't know about you with your kids, but my first thought was, oh God, what did she do? Why are the police calling me? And he then went on to let me know that she had been involved in a pretty serious accident, and she was out on a morning run and was hit by a car on Hollywood Boulevard. And the car was going about 45 miles an hour when it hit her. So she was taken to Cedars-Sinai Hospital as a Jane Doe. And that's another public service announcement for any runners out there. Make sure you run with a shoe tag so that your identification is there, because it did take several hours for them to identify Lauren. But she was taken to Cedars-Sinai in critical condition with severe head trauma. You know, she did not have any other broken bones. Her iPhone wasn't even cracked, but she did quite the number on her noggin, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So it was, to make a long story short, you know, by the time, you know, we arrived, you know, we didn't even know she'd be alive when we got there. It was pretty bad. She had emergency brain surgery, and they had to remove a large section of her left temporal lobe, which is where our language center is housed, which is why I do most of the talking. Lauren has a condition called aphasia, and it's caused by damage to the brain, and it's very common with people with strokes, and it makes communicating difficult, and it affects being able to find words, being able to understand words, reading and writing, numbers, you know. But at that point, you know, aphasia was the least of our worries. You know, we were just trying to get to the next day. We didn't even know about aphasia at this point. But aphasia is pretty common, and Randy Travis, Gabby Giffords, most people have heard of them. So that's what Lauren suffers with every day. But again, day one was tough, and you know, it was several weeks before we even knew that she was going to survive. And after that, it was like, what kind of life was she going to have? So we just had to keep the faith.
Oh, okay. I having 4 children myself, I can't imagine that. You know, that is the nightmare scenario. What did you do? I mean, where do you go from there?
Sure. So for me, you know, it was just, I immediately, you know, my poor husband, he was just shell-shocked, you know, and you know, dads are fixers, and this is not something that could be fixed. So he really, really struggled, not to, you know, diss any men out there, but, you know, women tend to be the ones that are like, okay, I'm going to take charge and we're going to figure this out. And, you know, he kind of like shut down. And we just had to stay positive. And, I often say, what do people do without faith in a situation like this? Because her prognosis was terrible. And for whatever reason, I had a great sense of peace that we were going to be okay, no matter what the doctors told me. It was, and we've been people of faith, our whole life. We went to, religious schools, both my husband and I. We were brought up to know God, to love Jesus. So it was never, we never had that moment to where we thought, is this real? No, we knew. And we knew God was with us. And obviously, and it's, a lot of people have bad things happen and they don't have the outcome we have. So there's a lot of, guilt with that too, because
survivor's guilt, sure.
Yes. And I don't think, other people's prayers are not answered for whatever reason. We're not supposed to know the answer to that, but we were the lucky ones and our prayers were answered. But it was, faith is what our anchor was in those early days, because that's all we had.
So, understanding as much as I can Lauren's condition now, is she able to communicate what was going through her mind at the time, or has she communicated that to you, Colleen?
Yes. So Lauren has no memory
at all
of the accident or 2 years after.
2 years after, I cannot remember anything.
Yeah, she lost 2 whole years of her life, which was crazy.
So what?
And because she was
I was 25 at the time.
Yeah, because she was nonverbal for so long, I remember around her 27th birthday, she kept saying 27. And I thought she was just saying like, oh my gosh, I'm old. And me, I'm like, yeah, right, 27's old. But later I realized it was that she was like, how did I get to 27? Because she didn't remember 25 and 26.
Well, so does her communication come in spurts, or I'm just curious how she relates to you guys today.
Yeah. So now she's very conversational. And she can tell me her needs and her wants, for a long time.
How to drive.
She wants to drive. For a long time, we just wanted her to say something. And now I'm annoyed with her for what she says, which is a good thing, So yeah, she still struggles with understanding what people say to her. But I speak Lauren, and, even when she says the wrong thing, I know what she's talking about. So,
of course.
And we do public speaking. And so she definitely can communicate. And she really is a people person, which has really, really helped. Most people wouldn't know something was wrong talking to her. But within the conversation, they would probably figure it out within the first 5 minutes, because things would kind of be just a little off.
Yeah.
But she is very conversational.
So,
a go-getter.
You're a go-getter? Is that what you said? That's good.
Yes, she is.
So, yeah, and you're right. Looking at her, she looks great. And that's got to be a blessing, because I get it a little bit, because a couple years ago I broke my face, my nose, cheeks, and upper jaw. Spent a week in the hospital, and we didn't know what would happen next. But people can't tell. And and fortunately, I'm not affected in speech or anything like that. But that's a week was bad enough, and a couple of months recovery was rough. But whatever. I sat on the couch for 2 months. What was her recovery like? Was this a day by day touch and go thing, where the things come back slowly? Because as traumatic as an accident is, oftentimes the recovery can be even harder.
Yeah. So, she was in a coma for a couple weeks. And when she woke up from the coma, I'm, a stay-at-home mom of the 80s. So it wasn't like the soap operas that I used to watch. It was not Days of Our Lives. When she woke up from her coma, it was almost worse. And her eyes were open, and that's what we had prayed for. But they were so blank. I had never seen such blankness in my life. And it was kind of like when you have a newborn baby and they can't focus on anything, and you're looking at this baby and their eyes are going everywhere. That's kind of how it was with Lauren. And on her awake times, it was almost worse. I would be like, please, God, forgive me, but please have her go back to sleep. I just couldn't stand to stare at the blankness, because at that point, I didn't know if that's what her future looked like. And I was prepared to take care of her, in any way that God gifted me. But I knew this was not on Lauren's bucket list. I mean, she was a list maker, and this was not in the plan. And it was really, really difficult. And, she couldn't even move her limbs. They would have to pinch her just to see if she had any movement on either side of her body. After about 7 weeks, when she was medically stable, they airlifted her by private medical jet to the Rehab Institute of Chicago, which is one of the best rehab centers in the country. And it's now called the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. I always joke that I think Shirley's family had more money than Lauren's. Otherwise, it would be the Lauren Murphy Ability Lab. But they were an amazing place. And, it was when we got there that she learned how to hold up her head. The first time they stood her up, she took a step, and her physical therapist said, I didn't expect that to happen. And I mean, and by taking a step, I mean, her head was hanging down, and I mean, she looked terrible. I mean, she was, but the automatic muscles, she just moved her foot, and it was slow, but it was, by the time we left, which was, how many days do you remember? 127
days.
127 days in the hospital. She was walking.
That's walking.
And not steady, but she was able to walk. But it took that long. She still had a feeding tube. She had a trach, but that was removed right after she arrived at the rehab hospital. But she had the feeding tube for about 6 months. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. I mean, hours and hours of speech therapy, OT, and physical therapy. And it was a tough time.
I understand the faith back. Oh, by the way, you got one of these scars right here. I got one of these scars from the
yes.
So she had hers fixed. She had it, and once she was verbal enough, she said, So it's funny because Vanity was a driving force with her recovery. Her arm was stuck up like this. She hated the way it looked. She had to do Botox in her arms, and I think Vanity helped her like really work it. And then she asked to get her trach scar fixed. She also asked to get her teeth fixed because her teeth shifted in the coma. So once she could verbalize it, I'm like, of course you can get that fixed. If you can ask for it, I will run to the orthodontist and the plastic surgeon.
Perfect.
I love it. I didn't know you could get I've got one here. I should get, I don't know. I don't worry about it. You can't really see mine, but that's great that they were able to do that. So faith being a part of your background, where was God in the mix of all of this?
Yeah, and it's, I would be lying if I said there was no times where my faith was wavering. That's kind of that's just part of the, Christianity and, but he was in that ICU room and, I mean, he's everywhere, but I could definitely feel his presence in that ICU room. And and it's in the book, there was a moment where her heart rate dropped and it went down to 17 beats a minute. And those 17 beats in between the heartbeats felt like an hour in between. And, the whole team rushed in and brought in the crash cart and gave her doses of epi, just like you see on TV, and prepared her body for the paddles. They peeled off the adhesive strips and rolled her over, put them on their back, rolled her over, put them on the front. And I've never prayed so hard in my life. And, when you are little and you learn these prayers, you kind of say them on autopilot. You don't really think about the meaning of them. And it's, even into adulthood, I don't know how many times I've recited a prayer and really haven't sat and reflected and thought about the meaning of those words. And let me tell you, never has an Our Father or Hail Mary been prayed with more passion as in those moments. And I was so thankful for those autopilot prayers that I learned as a kid. And again, thank God I had those. And I watched as those monitors slowly, went up to 18, 19, 20, until she had a normal sinus rhythm. And they rolled that crash cart out in the hallway where it belonged. And, that was probably one of the hardest ICU moments that we had.
I can't even imagine. Now, on a lighter note, because oh my goodness, God bless you guys. You had a visitor. Was that in ICU or was that in rehab in Chicago, where you had an interesting visitor that a lot of people will know her name?
Yes, that was. Do you remember who visited you?
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And what did she do?
She came and visited, and I was in a coma.
Oh yeah, you
I slept through the whole thing.
Yes, she's
in LA, and I was like, oh my gosh. My parents were in the room, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, she's
amazing.
So yeah, she also gave us a huge donation to fly my family back and forth to LA and Chicago, which was great, and left her sweater behind, which was awesome. And then she came out with the song Cardigan, and I'm like, well, how cool is that? We have her cardigan hanging in the closet. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
No, that's really nice.
It was.
I love when people who have the notoriety and the money give like that, because they don't have to, and that really says a lot. Have you seen her or communicated with her since to let her know? I mean,
so she also FaceTimed with our some of Lauren's siblings at home, which was cool. But so you got to see her.
I saw Taylor Swift
2 years
later.
At a concert.
And I gave her a huge hug, and she was like,
yeah,
Lauren! And she was so excited. I saw her backstage, and she was so happy.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, she's the real deal.
Love it. I love that. My daughter's a big Taylor Swift fan, so I'll have to let her know about that. All right.
Definitely.
We're talking to Colin and Lauren and Colleen Murphy. The book here is Murphys Don't Quit. It's available now wherever you get books. But I got to ask you, I mean, the title, I think I get it, but I really want to hear it from you.
Yes. So Murphys Don't Quit has been our family mantra from day one. My husband came up with that when the kids were little, no matter what it was, if they wanted to quit their softball team midseason. No, you signed up for this. Murphys Don't Quit. You're going to finish it out. Even laundry, my go-to punishment was always, I'm not just going to send you to your room. I'm going to give you the basket of socks. You can pair up socks while you think about your actions. So again, Murphys Don't Quit. So it was always our thing. And then it was kind of when the accident happened, it just, stuck. The bracelet said Murphys Don't Quit, the t-shirts. And I mean, never has anybody embodied our family mantra, more than Lauren has. And
love it.
She truly hasn't quit, and she's still going.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, keep going, sweetheart. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, how many kids do you have, Colleen?
How many do we have?
7 kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have 7.
How did this impact the others? Not just the fright of the accident, but the whole process.
Yeah, well, and thank you for asking too, because so many people don't realize the siblings really are the ones that need some of the help, because the parents are focused on the sick kid.
Oh, yeah.
And when we do our speeches, this is something that I always try to teach is, if you want to help somebody, don't send a gift to the child that's sick. Go do something for the siblings, take them to the movies, do something special. But it was really hard. And, my oldest, who was just unbelievable, she was 26 at the time. She dropped everything, came over and played mom, for like 2 weeks, and was helping with homework and driving carpools and cooking and cleaning. And actually she had our house in better shape than we ever had it. But, so she gave up a lot to really, and she was already living out on her own, had her own career, until her dad could come home a couple of weeks later. But, our kids have been, we have a very close family, and they're just really good people. And, we're very, very fortunate. But we had so many people that helped, taking my kids to soccer practice and cheering extra loud for them at their soccer games and all of that stuff. But, they've obviously been affected. It's hard, and they still, when they do things in life, that Lauren's not able to do, they have a little bit of that survivor's guilt, and it's hard, but, we just do the best that we can. And, they're just, like I said, they're just really, really good kids.
Yeah. And I guess it's easy to say that nothing should hold them back from, their lives and what God's got in store for them. But
exactly.
Yeah, I get it. It is tough sometimes. And that don't quit attitude, man, that is it. I want to ask you about the future. I want to ask what Lauren's hopes and dreams are. Because the accident was obviously a pause on life, a shift in life, but it's not the end. There's a hope in the future. What do you see for that?
Yes.
What do you want to do with your future? Speaking,
more speaking.
Yeah.
More ahead of me.
Yeah. So yeah, so she loves getting out and meeting people and sharing her story, which is great because it helps her feel like she's contributing to society, which she is.
Yes,
you know, not in the
go
way.
other places and other
cities.
Cities. I love to travel.
Yeah, so we just booked one out of town today, so she's super excited about. Lauren loves, like I said, she loves to travel. She loves getting out. But yes, she's.
I'm a go-getter.
So one quick story, you know, back when she was still early on, I asked her, you know, what is it that you want to do? What do you see in your future? It's important to have dreams. And it's hard to ask these questions when someone has aphasia because number one, it's hard for them to understand the question and how do you break down the word goal? You know, how do you break down? It's really, really hard. And we were at an aphasia center at the time, just the two of us. And we would have lots of heart-to-hearts. You know, we would be there for 6 weeks. And I kept re-asking it. And finally, I'm like, what is it that you need the most? What's the one thing that you need? And I could tell she finally understood. And she went and got her notebook. Because if she couldn't verbalize it, sometimes she could write it. Mm-hmm. So what is that one thing you need? And she wrote it down. Do you remember what you wrote?
God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So those 3 little letters. And that's all, you know, for all of us. It's really, that is all we need. You know, and the rest will fall into place. So even, you know, with the amount of brain damage she has and her aphasia, she gets it. And she knows that's, you know, that really is all you need. And the rest will fall into place.
That's amazing. I mean, and beautiful. And when you look at her, I mean, she's a beautiful girl, but her countenance is beautiful too. What do you, I mean, when you look at her today, Colleen, what does it do for you? What do you see?
Well, sometimes we're ready to kill each other.
Mom.
A lot of mother-daughter together.
Come on.
I love you.
That's
kid.
a Murphy answer.
No, but it is, you know, and again, I have to take a step back sometimes to see, you know, and realize, you know, I'm so close in it. But especially when we do speaking engagements and I see the reaction from other people and I hear the stories that people tell us in the, you know, troubles and difficulties in their life and how her story has helped them. It's pretty neat to see, you know, I mean, it's awe-inspiring to see my daughter is able to make this kind of an impact on the world, which is pretty cool. So again, her life didn't turn out the way she wanted. And I'm not a fan of things happen for a reason. I talk about that in the book too. I'm like, I don't think any mother that anything has happened to her kids thinks that, but I do think bad things can happen and good things can come from that.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a positive that has come from this.
Yeah.
And it is really cool to see that reaction she gets from people.
Hey, you know, it's a couple of interesting theological points. Scripture says that all things work together for good. It doesn't say that all things are good. We know they're not. And I think God's aware enough to know they're not too. And also, Jesus said to pray, thy will be done, meaning, God, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, which indicates to me that his will is not always done. So when I see an accident like that, I don't say, well, God made that happen. God, I mean, you can argue he let it happen in the sense that he has set the earth up and let it operate under the rules that he set up. But I don't think God brings the pain. I think he brings the life. I think he steps into some circumstances like yours and says, watch me watch my magic, if you will. Probably wrong word. Watch my power, you know. Watch me be glorified through this situation in this temporary pain in this life on earth that's going to have eternal consequences because you're touching people in a way that will change them for eternity. And so it's a pretty amazing thing. People can book you through the website. Is that right? MurphysDon'tQuit.com?
Yes.
Okay. That's in the chat for you guys. MurphysDon'tQuit.com. It looks just like that. It's got Lauren's beautiful picture on it. And I have a couple of questions from the audience, if you'll indulge us for just a second. Judy wants to know if you have a dog or a pet, I would ask.
No. We do have 3 grand dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, Lauren doesn't do well with mess. So the dog hair is one of those things that makes her crazy. We actually did have a dog at the time of her accident, and I didn't put it in the book because I thought we had enough sad stuff in the book, but our dog had to be put to sleep while I was gone. So I never got to come home and say goodbye to the dog, which was really, really hard. But we have an inappropriate sense of humor sometimes, but I'm like, you know what? I don't think the book needed the dead dog. I think we had enough sad stuff going on. But we do get our dog pics with our 3 grand dogs.
Okay, I'm Irish enough to get your sense of humor, so
Yes.
totally, totally get it. And then a more serious question: what was the situation with the driver? Because I know in an accident like this, it can actually be very traumatic for the one who caused the accident unintentionally. Was there anything, any story there?
Yes, good, very good question. So it was Lauren's fault.
Oh, yes.
When Lauren was crossing the street, typical New Yorker, it was flashing like she still had time to cross. It still said walk, but it was beginning to flash. So she thought she had enough time to cross, did not. There was a box truck that was pulled up too far in the turning lane, so she couldn't see when the light turned green, the car coming. So she was looking to get around the truck, the light turned green. He had no time to see her or react or stop. So my husband and I never felt like any type of animosity toward him, but the police detective asked if he could reach out to us, and we of course said yes. So he did come to the hospital and visited, not with Lauren, but with us. I didn't feel like bringing him back to the IC room would help him in any way because she was.
But I did have 2 earbuds in my ear while running.
Yeah, she was listening to music.
No kidding. That was just not just 2.
You should have one.
What should have had 1?
Yes. Yeah. So, but he, he had the same look on his face as my husband and I. That was, I can't imagine for him what it was like. And, he was so gracious and so nice and so kind. And then when we were in Chicago, he had sent us a card, let us know that he's still praying for us. And I have not heard from him since. But yeah, he had a really, really tough time with that. But, there was never any type of animosity or legal issues or anything like that with him. Yeah,
it's easy in those situations to overlook the other person in the accident, and it can be devastating as well. I love you guys. I love your story, and I appreciate you taking the time to share it, not just with me, but as you travel and share it with others. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to say? I just want to give you the floor.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anything you want to say, Lauren? Just never give up.
Never give up. Never give up.
With
never give up.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people need to hear that, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to say it. Thank you so much. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching, hitting share. Great, beautiful, inspirational story to share. Keep praying for the family, and pray for the gentleman that struck Lauren. I mean, hard situation all the way around, but God can take the bad in all of our lives and make something beautiful out of it. That's what we call redemption, and this is a beautiful story, and it's ongoing. So if you want to keep up with them, definitely pick up the book. You can hear the backstory and check out their website, murphysdon'tquit.com, and follow what they're going. Maybe invite them to come to your church or your group and speak. That would be a blessing for you and for them as well. And join us again next time. We have more for you right here on Life Today Live. We'll see you again next time.
Very much. And if Jesus loves you so very much, surely you are ready now to believe him, to receive him, and to receive the healing for body, mind, and soul.